Say, what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Now, for those of y'all new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. During those times, I accumulated some good stories and good insight on things related to prison. I'm going to share some with y'all today. If you like the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and especially hit that notification bell. That way, anytime I drop a story, you will be notified ASAP Rocky, and you can hop on it whenever you're ready. Also, I rap. Don't get it twisted, though. The flow is none like Curtis Blow. Check my music out, man. Go to my YouTube playlist, scroll down to gas stations, and you will find some of my music there. You definitely gonna want to check it out, man, because I gas. Now, let's hop up into this right here. A lot of times people will leave comments asking me about some of the more things that's I guess deemed contraband in prison, man. So I'm gonna share a little bit about that with y'all today. Now, keep in mind before I get into this story that as long as convicts have been doing time, you've had the administration there, collecting data. You have people going to protective custody yards, telling them everything they need to know and need to hear. So none of this stuff that I'm sharing with you guys is like top secret news. This is nothing. So anyway, let's go, man. Uh, when I first got to prison in 1996, I believe one of the most sought after items was marijuana. A lot of people want marijuana to smoke weed when they in jail to possibly take their mind off their current situation or whatever like that. But before I left in 2018, I definitely believe the most sought after item was a cell phone. When you locked up in prison, you away from your family. Nothing can put you in contact with them and with the outside world as much as a cell phone can. When you're in prison, in the California prisons, if you happen to have a job, you get one 15-minute phone call a day, providing that an incident or fight don't break out. Say you got a phone call at 10:15, fight breaks out at 10 o'clock. The yard doesn't resume and the situation is not resolved till 10:30. You just missed your phone call. You got to sign up and get another one. If you don't happen to have a job, maybe if you just got to prison, it might take anywhere from a month to a year. You may have lost your job due to some type of disciplinary infraction, and you're on what's known as A2B status. Then you only get a call once a month for 15 minutes. So yeah, it's nothing like a good old cell phone when you locked up in prison. Depending on where you're at, is gonna dictate the price of a cell phone. If you're at a prison where cell phones are plentiful, you might pay 300-400 for a smartphone, maybe 6-7 for a top-notch smartphone. If you're at one of these prisons where they're locked down a lot, maybe it's high security, they don't have a lot of cell phones, you might pay anywhere from 2,000 to 7-8,000. I've heard different prices, so it just all depends on how bad you want a cell phone, and of course if you're able to afford one. Like I said, I still believe weed is something that's highly sought after in prison. And when I first got to prison, $10 worth of weed was a chapstick top. They'd call it a cap. So yeah, you take off the top of a chapstick, fill it up with weed, and that was $10. There was a point where I was selling weed in Ironwood. I had somebody bring it to me. I won't say who it was, but anyway, off an ounce, you could get anywhere from 80 to 90 caps. So that's like $800-900 for something that you've only spent $40 to $80 for. So yeah, it's extremely lucrative. Me, I would have people pay me in items that was going to the canteen. So if a person wanted to get $30 worth of weed, I'd give him the weed. I'd make out a store list for $30. When he go to the store, he'd bring me my items. Some people though, they may have had, like, if you get maybe $50 worth of weed, they may have had your family send the money to their family on the street. So it just all depends on the person who was selling the weed, how he wanted to be paid. Now, of course, the Hispanics, they have a policy where they're not allowed to do business with blacks. But there were several Hispanics coming to me buying weed from me. Of course, they'd come get the weed. I'd give them the store list. Then I remember one specifically telling me, hey, chill, I got the stuff for you, but, I don't want my people to see me give it to you. So give me an hour or two or whatever to make sure the coast is clear. I'll get the bag dropped off at your door. And that's what he done. So, despite that policy, when you have something that a person wants, they gonna come seek you out and they gonna make it happen. You know, cigarettes, man. When I first got to prison, cigarettes, we were allowed to buy tobacco from the canteen. At some point in time, maybe around 2002, 2003, they issued a memo saying that, in maybe 4 months or however long it was, contraband will, I mean, cigarettes will now be contraband. So that really, once it became contraband, really made the price of tobacco just go extremely high. I started selling tobacco later on. Well, I used to sell it then too, but I started selling it later on at CMC, man, and I was making a killing, man. Now 2 pouches of Bugler street tobacco was going for a 65-ounce pouch, which would normally around that time I think was like $3 or $4. I was paying $100 for 2 pouches, but I could in turn make maybe about anywhere from $400 to $500 from that tobacco. Cigarettes was $3 a pop. A can of tobacco was $500. At that time, and CMC is one of the rare prisons in California who they have what's known as duckets. So you can go to the canteen and each convict is allowed to purchase and have up to 50 ducats in his possession. The purpose of those ducats, it was a snack bar on the yard. So now you could go to the yard and buy ice cream, potato chips, soda, candy, stuff like that. And so these ducats was supposed to be spent at this snack bar. But of course, those ducats turned out and became a form of currency. And so now you basically can do anything with that. That was the people didn't even want the normal canned goods and stamps and stuff that they might use to barter with at another prison. And so you also had a lot of people like myself who had restitution as a imposed fine from the court. When I first came to prison, restitution was 22%. So if your family sent you $100, you got 78. Wasn't too bad. Gradually, they kept increasing the amount of restitution, and then eventually it got to where it was 55%. So yeah, if your family sent you $100, all you got was $45 if you had restitution. And so for that reason, myself and many other people didn't go to the store, especially at CMC East, when you could buy ducats from someone else and then use those ducats to go get anything you needed. If you happen to, sometimes they'd have it'd be a long store line on canteen day. You just go to the line and ask, go down the line, hey man, anybody getting some ducats? So yeah. Okay, Hook, do me a favor, man. Take these 50 ducats and get me $50 worth of stuff from the store. And then you could do that, depending on how many ducats you have, you'd find people to go and stuff like that. Then also, about me selling this tobacco, I had plenty of ducats. So like I said, sometimes people would want to buy ducats in order to do whatever they wanted to do, And so I'd have a person say, hey, chill, man, can I get 50 ducats from you? Well, yeah, okay, listen. At that time, we was using Western Union. You have your family, Western Union, $50 to this number right here or this person right here. Once I confirmed that the money was picked up, I would give them 50 ducats. And so yeah, that was extremely profitable. And then you also had people who would bring in cash money from the streets when they would go on a visit. So they may bring in $100 bill. You could sell $100 cash for anywhere up to 180, maybe 200 ducats on the yard. It just depended on how plentiful, how many $100 bills was floating around and what they was going for. Me, sometimes, I may have 700-800 ducats in the sale from my tobacco sales. Now, like I said, we're only allowed to have 50 ducats. The police would come in and search your cell and take them. So sometimes I would go purchase a $100 bill because they were easier to hide. Then later on, once I needed it, I'd sell it and then go do what I had to do. Sometimes, not often, because tobacco seemed like it was always plentiful. But at the times that I could not find some, I could have $500 or $600 sent in through a connection that I had, and then in turn get the $600 and sell the $100 for 180 ducats. Then I would turn around and sell the ducats and make a profit like that. So it's always good to hustle in prison, because you make an extreme amount of money if you know what you're doing. Another big commodity in prison was liquor. Jailhouse liquor, we would call it Pruno. People would make Pruno from fruit and sugar. Then later on, they stopped letting us get oranges due to, people was making too much Pruno or whatever. But people still found ways around that. You would get people who would get oranges. They may have a homie working in the kitchen who's able to steal, 100 packs of jelly. Then they just use the jelly as the sugar, because they also stopped allowing us to buy real sugar from the canteen. They stopped selling it. And so maybe for a 16-ounce bottle of Pruno, it went anywhere from $3 to $6 depending on who was making it. They also could burn the Pruno and turn the Pruno into what they would call white lightning, like a form of vodka or something. I never really indulged, but to my understanding, they would just have the Pruno in a big old giant bag. Then they would get these buckets that we could check out to wash our clothes, and they would put the bucket, they would put the bag of Pruno in the bucket, add some water, then get 2 stingers. A stinger is what we use to heat up our water and stuff. So you could plug the stinger up, drop it in the bucket, about maybe 2 stingers, let it burn for maybe 30 to 60 minutes. Then you'd have this white lightning. Now, a 16-ounce jar of white lightning could go anywhere from $40 to $80 depending on who was making it and how good it was deemed to be. So, of course, one of the major things that always caused a lot of problems in prison was heroin. You got a lot of drug addicts in prison. Maybe a matchstick. Maybe the head of a matchstick is $50 worth. That's $50 worth of heroin in prison and stuff. So you might could buy a gram of heroin in prison from anywhere from $40 to $80 and make about $300. Now, I did dabble in the sale of heroin a time or two up in there, but to keep it 100 with y'all, I was nervous. I was scared, because if they happen to catch you with heroin or even weed, you're gonna catch a case. You go into the hole, but then they're gonna file charges from you, in whatever county you are in. You will start going to court. They'll take you to court, and you start going to that county and facing charges as if you had got caught on the street. I've seen people actually get struck out behind getting caught with weed and heroin. I had a good friend, man, who he may have been maybe 2 or 3 months going home on that sentence that he was serving. He got caught with a couple of joints and ended up getting a life sentence. This was maybe 97, 98, somewhere, maybe somewhere around there. And he ended up doing 16 or 17 years on that life sentence, man. So yeah, it was definitely, that heroin was definitely something that's had me spooked. And then also, heroin is something that caused plenty of fights and riots, because like I said, once again, the Hispanics, they have policies, and I believe the whites too, where they're not supposed to do business with blacks. But if you have a person who's hooked on heroin, he's a junkie, and a black person is the only person on the yard that's selling it, you best believe they're going to make their way over to that dude and do business with him. Now, you may have had a lot of blacks too also thinking, okay, this dude is really not supposed to be doing business with me. So actually, it's good, because I know this dude is not going to play with my money, because if, you do business with a Hispanic or a white and they don't pay, you can go get at their people. Hey, man, listen, your homie, he owed me, $300, man. So, and of course, they're going to tear that dude's butt up. So, under that pretense, you had sometimes people dealing outside of their race thinking that this was going to be a sure bet, failing to realize that a junkie is a junkie, and it doesn't matter. Sometimes this person is not able to get this money to you. Maybe he's already rent and spent $300 over here, and now he's coming to you because he's burnt his bridges over here. He can't pay everybody, and maybe his family can't always get the money when it's supposed to be sent. And so things like that was definitely the cause of a lot of problems. Now, syringes, of course, because in order to do the heroin, you need a syringe, and so you may have had a person or a friend, somebody that you knew who worked in the medical department, and it was able to get you a syringe. You have people in prison who have diabetes and need to take shots. And so once they get the shot, the syringe is supposed to be disposed of in what's known as hot trash. But of course, a syringe goes from anywhere from $20 to $50 depending on how bad a person wants to get high. So if a person is willing to give you that, you have people who are willing to take that chance, because if they get caught with the syringe, they're definitely gonna get in some major trouble themselves. But like I said, you have people willing to take that chance. People willing to, going like I said, go in the hot trash. And then they also had people who would make syringes. The incarcerated mind is extremely creative in prison, man. And so, I think they would call them binkies, and they may take the empty tube to an ink pen and put the stuff in there. They'd find something to force it through there, put some type of sticking point at the end, and create their own syringe. And so, like I said, when a person is locked up, he wants to get high or he wants to do any type of thing, man. You have dudes who are extremely, extremely creative. Another highly sought after item, and it's always going to be sought after when you have a lot of men locked up and incarcerated, of course, is nude magazines. When I first got to the pen in 1996, we were allowed to have nude publications, Penthouse, Playboy, Hustler magazines, Blacktails, any type of magazine. It could show full nudity as long as there was no penetration. And so somewhere around 2002, some up in there, once again, they issued a memo and gave us, a certain amount of grace period. And after that period, nude magazines, nude pictures, all that stuff like that was going to be contraband. And if they ran across it on the search, they was going to confiscate it and possibly even write you up. So they gave us the option of either throwing it away or sending it home. So, once that kicked in and it became contraband, of course, you had people who still had old magazines, maybe Head or whatever, would sell those magazines sometimes $40 to $100, would possibly rent them out. That was always a lucrative hustle too, Now, before they outlawed the magazines, actually, I had a homie, and he would order, I believe, maybe 5 or 8 blacktails, however much it was, for like $20, $25. Then he'd go outside and sell each magazine for $15 to $20. So stuff like that, always was a way that you can make money. But especially with the more heavier drugs, man, the heroin, the weed, the speed, you definitely could make insane amounts of money. You had some people who even would had done time, and then once they got out, they may send somebody up there to visit a friend and take them some drugs, and they be sending the money to the streets and stuff like that, making a killing. Because like I said, supply and demand is definitely something that's that dictates the price of stuff in prison. And when in prison you don't have the normal access to stuff that you normally would get, the prices go extremely high. They go extremely high. So yeah, that's just a little story about how some of the things in there is sold and acquired and stuff like that. You've had several officers who have been caught smuggling in contraband, whether it's cell phones, drugs, or whatever. Sometimes the administration would like the public to believe that all these things enter the prison. Maybe you got Michael Vick or somebody with a strong arm standing outside the prison wall, and he got all this stuff stuffed into a football, and he throws the football over into the yard and stuff like that. But no, it's well known that a lot of these guards smuggle in a lot of this stuff, and that's why at one point the guard union, and I don't think it's still a felony. They didn't want it to be a felony for guards who get caught bringing in cell phones, and so yeah, that was something that was extremely lucrative. A guard may bring in 10, 15 cell phones, and he's in cahoots with a convict, and they're splitting the money. They're selling them $3,000-$4,000 a pop, or whatever they're going for at that particular time in prison. You have guards who got rich, doing stuff like that, man. And so anyway, man, matter of fact, I'm gonna leave a link for y'all, man. I was at I was at CMC, and they caught this one guard bringing in stuff, man. And he once they caught him, he admitted to doing it, because by that time it was time for him to retire. And he basically told him, go to hell. Yeah, man, I done made over $100,000 doing this type of stuff. He retired, got his pension and all that type of stuff. And so yeah, if you guys are interested in doing in seeing that, I'll leave a link to that, about the guard who got caught. And anyway, you already know what it is, man. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.